Listen, from Team Target. All the best to everybody at iRacing Brazil.
Community Silvestre, and I hope all the iRacers in Brazil are having a lot of fun on iRacing.
Hi, I'm Justin Wilson. Want to say hello to all the iRacers down in Brazil. Hope you have fun, enjoy the racing. Take it easy.
Hey, I'm Wyatt Gooden, and iRacing Brazil, awesome league. You guys are great, cool league.
Quero mandar um abraço aí pro pessoal do iRacing Brasil. Continue jogando aí.
Aí galera, eu sou o Hélio Castro Neves, fique ligado no iRacing Brasil. Vamos lá, Brasil!
Vamos lá.
The fourth round of the 16 Street Racing League takes us to Motegi, Japan for the only international race of the season. Motegi is a track like no other in all of oval racing. Turn 1 and 2, kind of flat out, 10 degrees of banking. Turn number 3 and 4, you're going to have to be lifting, and some of these drivers even tapping on the brakes as the runs progress. Motegi is a beautiful complex where the road course weaves itself underneath the oval and is a track and a complex built by Honda in 1997 to bring the IndyCar series to Japan, and it did just that. Coming off victory 1 week ago at Richmond, Matt Cook starts in second position today, but the guy ahead of him, Young O, makes a triumphant return back to the series by claiming pole position. A total of 29 cars making the trip over to Japan. And Dave, I'm going to have to say, konnichiwa or kota Motegi.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, Motegi is going to be a very challenging track this afternoon, evening, depending where you are in the world. Young O, not a surprise that he's back on top, defending series champion, who pretty much won everything last season. Looking to see Matt Cook, what kind of challenge he can give Young O. And I'm looking at turn number 4 today. I think that's going to be the trouble spot. Guy's going to get loose off there, and the car's going to want to slam into that inside wall. So keep an eye on turn 4 today.
Indeed. Turn 4, the car's getting looser and looser, we've seen in the transfer race over the course of the run. But turn number 1 and 2 as well, Dave. We've seen guys really get tight down there. And as I say, only 10 degrees of banking, and these guys are still doing about 200 miles an hour flat out through turn number 1 and 2. I have seen a number of drivers lift, just dab off the throttle a tiny bit to set that car down on the inside line. Of course, right in the centre of the corner between 1 and 2 on the inside, that horrible, nasty bump upsets the cars.
Yeah, the whole track is very tricky on these drivers. It demands a lot of skill, a lot of attention. Any lapse in judgment can really cost you. 1 and 2 seem like an easy corner. It's very wide. But it does lead to a lot of trouble, especially guys going too wide in there. You touch that bump. We could see a lot of action today. I'm looking forward to a good race. Young O, Matt Cook, Tim Doyle, your top 3. All great drivers. Looking to see what kind of battle they can put up today.
Let's run through your starting grid for round number 4 of the 16th Street Racing League, brought to you by iRaceForLife.org. Young O starting on the inside of row number 1, a only driver to get himself into the 28.4s. Matt Cook will start alongside him. Tim Doyle will start on the inside of row number 2, and Ron Mayer Jr., a great qualifying by him, will line up in the 4th position. Martin Miller, after a disappointing qualifying at Richmond 1 week ago, qualifies here today on the inside of row number 3. Courtney Terrell lines up alongside him on the outside. Randy Cosno and Joshua Chin, they line up on row number 4, both looking to have good races here today to bounce their championship campaign back into gear. And then row number 5, Paul Jenkins and Matt Kingsbury, as the rest of the qualifying time comes up on your screens momentarily. And Dave, this track is a track that we normally see a lot of green flag running, despite the fact that it's a very difficult racetrack. Let's not forget, in ISOWC competition, this track holds the record for the longest green flag run, over 325 miles of green flag racing. The guys go green here today, they're going to have to make themselves 3 green flag pit stops.
Yeah, Motegi lends itself to spreading the field out a little bit because the best drivers know how to get through turn 3 and 4 really well, either letting off or braking, or a combination of both depending on setup. So that tends to spread the field out a little bit. Chances are you're really going to see the action heat up on starts and restarts when guys are all over each other, but once a clear couple laps, the field starts to spread out a little bit, and that does lend to green flag competition.
Pit road speed here today is 45 miles an hour. The guys will have to, coming out of pit road, make sure they stay below that white line all the way until the exit of turn number 2. You will see the drivers, however, pitting off of turn number 4. The iRacing.com first safety car right now has its lights out with 1 and solitary pace lap before we let these cars rip for 110 laps around the egg. Twin Ring Motegi. The track, let's say, built in 1997 by Honda to bring IndyCar racing to Japan. And, of course, the track where Danica Patrick won her one and only IndyCar race back in 2008. As the cars work themselves through turn number 4, will Young O be able to make pole position, victory, or will Matt Cook do what he did in the transfer race and be able to pass the Scandinavian in the number 1 car? Tim Doyle, what can he do? Ron Mayer Jr., his best qualifying in the last lap motorsports car. Pace car is in, and the 4th round of the 16th Street Racing League is underway, and it's a good start there. Matt Cook getting a little bit sideways as they come down in turn 1. That's going to make it potentially 3 wide as they come down into the first corner. Cook is going to have Mayer Jr. on his inside, and a bad start there by Matt Cook as he slots back into line. Behind them, they are mainly single file for the most part. 2 wide, 2 deep racing in the mid-pack of the field as they come down into turn number 3. Watch out, you've got Kenrick on the outside, Schaefer and Jenkins on the inside. Demerit's going slowly there, as well as Holgate is going to slot in. And this is exactly it, Dave. The field separates and bunches back together, and that mid-pack is really showing that.
Yes, well, and these guys, there's a bit of desperation for Tim Doyle, Matt Cook, Ron Meyer Jr., because they know that Young O is perfectly capable of pulling so far away so fast that they'll never see him again. So these guys really got to make up some time right now to try to maintain with Young O, because the guy just seems like he's got the magic touch. He can do no wrong, and once he gets a big enough gap, nobody can touch him.
So the top 5 right now is Young O from Tim Doyle, from Matt Cook, who's going to need to get himself back past Meyer Jr., who runs in 4th, and then in the 5th position is Courtney Terrell. We have one car who is classified 1 lap down. That is Dennis Gareese. Everyone else is scored on the lead lap, 31 cars in the race. In fact, Mark Reed is out of the race now, so just 30 cars remaining. Start and park there for Mark Reed. However, this track is kind of unique, Dave, and that once you lose the draft, it's actually, in some cases, advantageous, especially when you come down to turn number 4. And you will see gaps of about 0.8, 0.9 of a second on the racetrack as this race progresses, as cars lose a draft, but in many cases they just want to preserve their tyres a little bit and do not want to be running in that dirty end. I tell you what, Schaefer down to the inside of Paul Jenkins, he will not be able to complete the pass there, and that is going to allow Tim Holgate to look down his inside as they come down into turn number 1 once again.
Very surprising qualifying effort for Tim Holgate and the Panther guys. Last week at Richmond, those guys dominated qualifying, ran up front all day long. Tim starting 13th, definitely not where he wanted to be, so he's got a lot of work to do to get back up to the top 5, running 12th right now, getting by Schaefer and Demerit. And the next car he's closing is Paul Jenkins. So it'll be interesting to see the Panther guys work their way through the field right here.
Joshua Chin looking down to the inside of Martin Miller as they come back down into turn number 1 and 2. Now, Miller was actually trying to look down to the inside of Mayer Jr. into 3 and 4, was not able to hold that car down to the inside, and therefore lost momentum, and Chin was able to get back past him. And Matt Kingsbury looking as though he was going to try to go down to the inside in the exit of turn 2 as well, was not able to do so. But this really is a really big momentum track, and you will see, guys, they will rather be a tenth of a second slower and get good momentum out the corners than trying those aggressive moves into turn 3 and 4. One guy who is looking as though he's trying to set himself up for a pass, that is Matt Cook in that number 66 LOX racing car, and he right now is about a car length behind Tim Doyle, but importantly they are already a second back from that number 1 car of Young O.
Yeah, these guys are definitely battling is not helping them, even though they're not side by side. They're pushing each other and not focusing on the leader. So even just a thousandth of a second can make a big difference here. And like you were saying, well, big momentum track, you're going to see a lot of over and under passes, because you'll get a guy coming out of 2, you'll be able to cut under him, but then the guy will have an advantage on you going into 3, and then the same thing coming out of 4 going into 1. So there's going to be a lot of over under moves, and sometimes it's just a matter of waiting for the guy in front of you to make a mistake and get by him on a straightaway before the next corner comes up.
Yeah, and you will see some guys as the race progresses as well try and take different lines into turn number 1. And you will see some guys, especially if they're the car running behind, take a wide apex through turn number 1, bring the car down, and then let it drift back up, because they'll carry more speed through the corners, might enable them to get themselves side by side and that run down into turn number 3 as Tim Doyle slows well up there through the centre of turn number 3 and 4, and he is out of the race. Another guy out of the race, so out of contention for this lap. One guy who is out of the race, I say, is Mark Reed, and he is the only retiree so far. Meanwhile, we are going to have a look at Paul Jenkins, and he is stuck on that outside line. The number 80 car of Mark Schaefer is down on his inside. They're going to be 2 wide racing through turn number 3 and 4. Schaefer will complete that pass, and now he's going to try and close out to Christopher Demerit. Demerit didn't have a good qualifying even. He's running in that mid-pack right now in the 11th position, as Paul Jenkins is now going to try and come back on Mark Schaefer down into turn number 1 and 2.
And it looks like Nefriog's going to look like he's going to try to take advantage of the situation, but he's not far enough up on him. Paul Jenkins kind of got Schaefer trapped on the outside. We'll see if he dives to the inside here going into 3. No, Schaefer's going to really run it under the outside of Jenkins, but that's not going to work. And then Nefriog going to get on the inside, probably at the preferred line going to turn 1.
Yeah, so Schaefer's going to try and hold that outside line. He might actually just be clear. Yeah, no, he wasn't. So they're going to be 2 wide. Nefri on that inside line, it isn't as advantageous as we see at some tracks, because to hold it down there, as I said earlier, you do have to blip off the throttle a tiny bit. So Nefriog in that 04 car has to fall back into line, and he continues to run in the 14th position on the racetrack. Some good racing down in the second half of this field though, Dave. Importantly though, we have been 13 laps green, as Nefri's going to try and look back down to the inside again. He will be able to go down to that inside line. The draft from Jenkins might help him, and this time Nefriog is clearly going to be alongside, at least coming down into turn number 3 and 4. He will have the preferred line as he comes down into the corner, and Schaefer is very good on the outside line. However, Nefri comes down and he will complete that pass, moving himself up into the 13th position on the racetrack. Good clean racing, as 13 laps and 110 are in the book.
Yeah, this mid-pack is packed pretty tightly together. A lot of good battles. Nefri made a nice pass, was patient, waited for the spot to open up, and he took advantage of it. Schaefer just kind of had to fall in. We'll see if he takes it back. He goes inside of Nefri going into 3. We'll see how he does on the inside as compared to the outside last lap.
And that time he was able to complete the pass. He slings back in front. And now look at this. Anthony Kenrick is going to get himself alongside Nefriog as they come down into 1 and 2. very, very good close racing here. And what you see is that some cars are better through 1 and 2. Some guys are actually better on the outside line. And caution out, first caution of the day. And we're going to get confirmation of who that is. And it's just down at the start-finish straight. Brian Simpson in the number 7 car. Now, he had himself some rear wing damage already. Just trying to see what happened. And he just lost it off turn number 4, Dave.
Yeah, that rear wing damage definitely didn't help things. And he spun out right in front of Mark Shute. And that brings the yellow out. Probably without the rear wing damage, he would have been fine there. But car not behaving to his liking. Spun out off turn 4. And that's probably going to be the end of Mr. Simpson's day, unfortunately. But good news for Cook and Doyle. They get to close right back in.
You will probably see everyone on pit road here. 16 laps into the fuel run. A fuel run is somewhere between 30 and 33 laps here, depending on how much fuel you can save. Young O will probably lead the field in. Tim Doyle, I'm guessing most of the top guys will come in with him. It will only be someone down the rear end of the field who wants track position that might be brave and try and stay out on this first caution of the day. And I'll talk about turn number 4 after these guys pit, as pit road is open this time by. They're all going to sling themselves down. Top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drivers. It looks like everyone is coming in, Dave.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's coming in here. You're midway through a fuel run. You're really risking things if you stay green here and you don't pit. As good as Young O is on track, he has been known to slide through the pit box a couple times, so we'll have to check and see how he hits a pit stop here.
Yeah, and he is the first pit stall, so he's right at the very end, and he is in and nicely into his pit box for him. Tim Doyle behind him, he overshoots. So this will likely give the position back to Matt Cook. Indeed, it does, and Tim Doyle is going to lose 3, 4 positions there. 5 positions, hugely costly there, as we're 3 wide ahead of him coming out of pit road. And your race off pit road, it is Young O who comes out in front, Matt Cook second, Courtney Terrell up into 3rd, Ron Mayer Jr. down into 4th, Martin Miller, then Matt Kingsbury, then Tim Doyle. That was a very, very costly mistake there from that number 11 Point Wines Machine car.
Yeah, Tim not only slid through the box, but he had to back up into his spot, get into the right position. Guys were halfway done with their stops before he even got the jack under it. So very unfortunate. Tim's going to have to work hard to get by another 4 or 5 cars just to get back to where he was when the caution came out. Very good stop for Courtney Terrell, up from 4th to 3rd. He'll be on the inside line right behind Young O. We'll see if Matt Cook can get a better restart this time and hang with Young O. I think he's got the speed. I think Tim was holding up a little bit. So if he gets a good start, it'll be interesting to see if these two can stick together for a while.
Now, turn number 4, I said this at the top of the show, your cars will start getting loose as the run progresses. And we saw this quite a lot in the transfer race. And of course, Simpson had some rear wing damage, which might have accelerated that progression. But as this race goes on, and we're about halfway through a fuel run at the time of the first caution, you will see more and more guys getting a little bit loose off turn number 4. And I talked about momentum. 2 issues there. If you get too loose, you're going to slam into the inside retaining wall, as Simpson did. Second issue, if you get loose off turn 4, you can't get onto the gas when you want to. And on a momentum track, that means that you have the risk of being passed every single lap.
Yeah, if you're not able to get on the gas when you want to, and you can't keep that momentum up, you're just asking guys to dive inside of you and beat you into turn 1. And if the guy's pretty smart, he can push you up a little bit going into 1. He can have the inside line, but also have the more beneficial line with a wider arc, keep you pushed up the track almost in the 3rd lane, and then even more guys can get by you because you're scrubbing off speed on the top, trying to get back down to the bottom.
First say, first caution of the day is out, and we are working ourselves on lap number 18 of, and 110 here at Twin Ring Motegi. Lights are still on the pace car. Dennis Grease is the first guy in line. He is going to try get himself a lap back. And for Grease, he's going to want a quick caution. He will save a couple of laps in the fuel, so he'll be able to go to about lap 33 by my books right now. But the Vortex Racing number 16 car not having a good day. He's not had a good series, really, Dennis Grease. Very unlucky at Sebring, and he's not had the luck on the able sides either.
No, for the iRacing Road Fixed Series champion, not a day that he was definitely dreaming of. But a lot of time left in the race. Dennis is a great driver. We'll see if the setup can match his talent level, see if he can get back through the field. And hopefully a caution breaks his way, because if it doesn't, he's going to at least lose another lap.
Right, top 10. Young O, your race leader. Matt Cook will start on the outside of him in second. Third, Courtney Tail. Fourth, Romeo Jr. Fifth is Martin Miller. Then Kingsbury, Tim Doyle, Randy Cosno, Joshua Tim, and Mark Schaefer. If you want to hear about the funniest thing to come to Glacier TV in months, then check out the Will and Dave podcast, 4 p.m. Eastern, live and exclusive on Glacier TV, also available on iTunes.
Well, let's not forget, track's mile longer than a mile, so we're going to have single file restart here.
Of course, yeah, single file restarts here. This track measures just a little over 1.5 miles, and most people score it as 1.5, but that additional couple of yards really does make a difference in fuel calculations. So the guys are all single file. It's going to be a little bit like a Darlington restart here for you NASCAR fans, because they are all going to be hugging that outside line. As we complete our first caution of the day, it will be the completion of lap number 19, and we now have a total of 29 cars scored on the lead lap. Brian Simpson brought out the first caution of the day, and Mark Reed is also out of the race. Let's get back to racing at Motegi. Young O likes holding the field for as long as possible. When is he going to bowl? Green flag back in the air, and it's a good restart there by your top 3 or 4 drivers as they all bring it back down into turn number 1 once again. Tim Doyle making the move on the outside there of Matt Kingsbury. The two almost coming together there through turn number 1 and 2. It doesn't look as though Tim Doyle's going to be able to make the pass on the outside, but maybe he might be able to slot down into the inside as they come down into turn 3 and 4. No, Tim Doyle thinks better of it, and he slots into line. And 2 wide racing, 2 deep, 3 deep almost there through the middle of the field once again. You've got yourself Kenrick, Branch, Matinson, and Neff Briark, and they're still running 2 wide, 2 deep as they finally decide to slot into line.
Yeah, well, a very competitive battle there right off the restart. Honestly surprised that Young O did not slot up closer to the outside wall. Matt Cook might want to keep an eye on that for future restarts. He could get a little jump on him, perhaps. Who am I to question Young O, though?
Who, and indeed he is out to a 4/10 of a second advantage. However, Matt Cook was able to reel him in by a couple of hundredths that last lap. As I said in the transfer race earlier on here today, Matt Cook, of course, has to run the transfer races. This will be the last race he will technically have to do it. He is locked into the top 25 for the next round. Young O, as he hasn't taken part in the first 3 races, he forfeited his top 25 spot. He had to run the transfer race, and it's a great battle, but Matt Cook did come out in front of that number 1 car.
Yeah, looking at points, Will, going into this race, Niles Anders only had 26 points and was in the top 25. So conceivably, Young O could lock himself in if he wanted to continue the rest of the season with a win tonight.
Indeed he could, and Niles Anders wasn't able to make the cut in the transfer race here today, so the emphatic character that is that number 99 car of Niles Anders is taking no part in today's proceedings, and he will have to run the transfer race at Motegi next week as well. Keep an eye out on your top 3. We have got ourselves a top 3 breakaway now of Young O, Matt Cook, and Courtney Tail. Romeo Jr. in at number 17, Last Lap Motorsports car, is not able to keep up with Terrell right now, and he's under a little bit of pressure from Martin Miller as they work themselves back down into 3 and 4 once again. And of course, Miller's going to want to try and get past Mayer Jr. as quickly as possible if Jr. hasn't got the raw speed, because he will otherwise be in a situation where he's going to have to push hard just to get himself back into some form of draft range.
Not only that, Will, he's going to want to separate himself from Tim Doyle pretty quick, because we know that Tim's pretty fast, and he's probably driving a little more aggressive after making that mistake on pit road, so he's even more motivated and chomping at the bit to get back up to where he feels like he belongs. So any cars he can put in between himself and Tim Doyle will definitely be beneficial for Martin Miller.
As Miller is going to look down to the inside as they come down into turn number 1 and 2. Looks like it's going to be an easy sweep, and he will complete that pass. Not just yet. As you see there, he just hits that bump in the center of 1 and 2. He does look as though he definitely has the inside line. He should be clear into 3 and 4. Mayer Jr. is going to probably try and push him on the outside. And because of the fact that Miller had to take a very shallow line into the corner, He didn't have the speed he wanted, but he does finally complete the pass. I want to give you an update, by the way, on Ryan Murray in the 25 car. He got himself a black flag on the restart and is now scored a 1 lap down. Just trying to see what happened to him, and he passed the car before the start finish. He got a very good restart, and as the field was stacked up, and he just swarmed past about 3 or 4 cars. The rule is, of course, you cannot pass cars on the inside until you get past the start finish line, Dave.
Yeah, a little memory lapse there for Mr. Murray, unfortunately, and that's going to cost him a ton of time. That's going to be hard to make up here with 90 laps left.
Let's have a look at this mid-pack, because this mid-pack is fascinating right now. It starts with Joshua Chin in that 93 car. He has Mark Schaefer behind him, running in the 9th spot. In fact, Schaefer goes past. What's happened to Joshua Chin? He was just looking very slow there in 3 and 4. I think he might have just allowed Schaefer to go past. Yes, he did. So Schaefer up into P8. Josh Chin down into 9th. And Randy Crosno running in the 10th position right now, as Chin is going to go back past Schaefer into turn number 1 and 2. Anthony Koenig is running in the 11th position. Paul Jenkins 12th, Drew Branch 13th, and Lefty 14th, Terence Hinton 15th. Now these guys, they come together, then they separate a little bit for a couple of laps. Then they'll come back together as Crosno is looking down to the inside of that 93 car of Joshua Chin. And running too wide here costs you about 0.2 of a second per lap.
We got a wreck. We got a wreck off turn 4.
And that is going to be off.
Again.
Second caution of the day. And this time, a lot of smoke there down on site. And I believe it's Gary Borkenhagen in the number 24 broken aero machine. And just having a look at the replay, what happens to him, he just loses. Yeah, that's the classic turn 4 looseness there, Dave. The car starts sliding around, you try and correct it, and it is just not giving you anything. Borkenhagen out of race.
And Eric Davis is very lucky. He got loose almost the same as Gary, but he caught it and was not, he did not hit Gary spinning in front of him, so very lucky for Eric Davis. And Dennis Grease gets the caution he needed to maintain the lead lap and get that tank filled up.
I tell you what, it is very close for Dennis Grease actually, because of the fact that he would have had to have pitted in the next 2 to 3 laps. So a lucky break there for Grease, as he is able to come onto pit road and he'll get himself all the fuel he needs. He actually made up a ton of positions there, moved himself up from last in line up to 17th position. So a good run there from Grease. That Vortex car does have some good speed here.
This track also kind of has some road course tendencies, having to let off and brake a little bit. Very line sensitive, which benefits the guys that are very good on the road courses. So not a surprise to see Dennis Grease make up a lot of time there.
And pit road is open. Young-O in. He comes in very late. Matt Cook coming in as well. Terrell coming in. They're all coming in once again. Wow. Now, if you want track position, then it's an opportunity to stay out. However, Chin was running in the top 10. I'm wondering whether he just wasn't committed at the right... No, he made the clear, conscious decision to stay out.
Holgate also stays out.
And Holgate was running further down, however. So Holgate, we'll talk about that in a moment as Young-O is into his pit box. Once again, a good stop for him. Tim Doyle was nicely into his pit box this time. However, Matt Cook, this is going to be incredibly close there. But Young-O just beat Matt Cook out. And we're talking less than half a car length at the end of that one.
Yeah, Matt Cook definitely did what he needed to do. Had a faster pit stop than Young-O, but that number 1 box for our defending series champion Young-O benefited him here as he was able to beat him off pit road. But he's going to have 3 cars in front of him that did not pit. Joshua Chin, Tim Holgate, and Christopher Demerit stay out. That'll be very interesting to see what those guys do up front.
Well, let's say track position for some of those guys might be important. I'm struggling to understand why Chin would stay out, because he was running in the top 10. Holgate was a little bit further back here today. And the Panther boys, you said this earlier, they have been struggling checking in on the Panther machine. Nefriag, before that caution came out, he was scored in the 16th position. Joe Branch in 15th. Let's not forget, Nars Anders wasn't able to make the race here today. So overall, not a good day for the team that we thought was going to be dominant last week at Richmond.
Yeah, Motegi's a hard track to get your head around sometimes, and looks like the Panther boys are missing just a little bit. Could be that their setup's pretty decent in clean air, but not so good back in traffic. So with Tim Holgate up in second, we'll see if maybe the car behaves a little more to his liking.
Of course, we have ourselves another issue now. The top 3 drivers, Chin, Holgate, and Demert, they're going to be restarting on worn tyres at the front of the field. That means that field might be a little bit more stacked this time, coming down into turn number 1 and 2. And restarts and cold tyres here are always difficult. And as this race progresses, you're going to see them get more and more crazy. However, I don't understand this at all, because, you know, they're going to have to do 16 laps before another caution comes out if they're going to make a pit stop and then be able to cycle back through. But then they're going to have to take so much more fuel come that pit stop that they're going to fall right back down into the field.
Joshua Chin obviously thinks that he's got a bit of a strategic advantage here, and he's working it. You and I can't figure it out, but we'll see if it works out for his benefit. You know what, honestly, sometimes I think a couple guys just want to stay out to see what Young O can do in dirty air, because I think Young O is so good and so used to being up front. He optimizes his car for clean air. So if he's stuck behind 3 or 4 cars on a restart, he might not behave the way he wants it to. And sometimes that gets a guy into trouble. He's used to being up front all the time when he's got to get back in traffic a bit.
Don't forget, leave your comment in the YouTube page, or use the hashtag Glacier TV if you'd like to get in contact with us. Anthony Burns is asking, isn't Young O's pit box a disadvantage because he can't get all the way up to pit speed? In some ways, yes. However, he doesn't need to worry about putting the pit limiter in at all, Dave. So he can literally just floor it out of his pit box. No need to worry about anything. He knows he can just, you know, go for it. And also, not having to use that pit limiter, it can be a bit of an advantage in that first gear.
Yeah, not only that, well, but he's got such a little area to go before he crosses that timing line. It's not like on a green flag stop that might be a disadvantage, because he's still getting up to speed when other guys are already at pit road speed and coming off. He just has to creep over that line. He could be going 10 miles an hour slower and still beat a guy out behind him.
We'll run through your top 10 then, as the lights are out on the iRacing.com first safety car. Joshua Chin is your race leader, but didn't pit under that last caution. Tim Holgate didn't pit, restarts second. Christopher Demerit didn't pit, he restarts third. Then it's Young O who restarts fourth, Matt Cook fifth, Courtney Tell sixth, Martin Miller seventh, Tim Doyle eighth, Ron Mayer Jr. ninth, and Matt Kingsbury rounds out your top 10. I'll tell you what, we're going to see Young O in traffic. This is going to be interesting to see whether that one car can work in dirty air as well as he has on in clean air.
I remember last year at the Motegi race, Young O got shuffled to the back of the field, pitting when no one else did. He was very aggressive on the restart and the subsequent laps after that. We'll see if that rings true this time when the green flag comes out here in just a moment.
Don't forget, the top 3 drivers are on old tyres. This might have an impact on how they do this restart. Pace car is in. Joshua Chin waiting a little bit. Now the green flag back in the air. Demerit getting squirty. That's going to allow Young O to pass him on the outside. That is a legal pass. He passed him on the outside line. So your top 2 drivers get themselves a big breakaway, but Young O is able to overtake Demerit as they storm down into turn number 2 once again. Matt Cook, he restarts, and he is where he is. Terrell, Miller, and Doyle behind him. They are all line of stern, but Schaefer's down to the inside of that 17 car of Ron Mayer Jr., and he's not going to be able to complete the pass. Yes, he will. He gets it very good down the second part of turn 3 and 4, and he moves himself up into the 9th position on the racetrack. I tell you what, he overtook 2 cars there on that restart, our biggest mover in the top 10. But Joshua Chin leads away, and Tim Holgate is taking a very wide line through turn 1 and 2 there. He almost brushed the wall out of 2.
Yeah, he looked like he was pretty tight right behind Josh. So the car pushed up a ton. Luckily it didn't hit the wall. Hopefully that won't happen again, because that could end a lot worse next time around. Young O really had to wait on Demerit. He couldn't really pass him on the outside until the green came out, so he did lose a little momentum, but Young O, being as fast as he is, just reeled off 2/10 of a second to start catching
put a race lead
again.
And here comes Tim Holgate. He's not going to look down to the inside. Yes, he is going to look down to the inside, and he will sweep down, and he will complete that pass. It'll be our 3rd different leader of the day as Holgate goes to the point in that number 6 Panther racing car. We talked about how they weren't having a good day. They're now leading. Of course, they have not pitted yet, and therefore they will probably get shuffled back on a green or yellow sequence of pit stops. Younger is closing up. He closed up 0.2 of a second that last lap. I'll tell you what. Oh no, Demerit just hit the wall.
That was very odd. He was going straight down the straightaway, and the car just jerked to the right and smacked the wall. Car seems to be driving okay, but he's going to have to feel that out.
He is, and Matt Cook is going to be worried a little bit now as replay is up on your screen, just running it down. Probably he was adjusting something in his race car, and what we call the proverbial brain fart, he just moved that car to the right and glanced the wall, and now Matt Cook is going to come down to his inside, and he is not going to take any risks. He wants to get past him now, and the 66 car is going to sweep down to the inside, and he will complete that pass on the 144 car of Christopher Demerit, and Courtney Towell isn't far behind as well. Out front, however, the gap is now down to just 0.3 of a second between Josh Kin in second and Youngo in third. So Youngo's been able to close that gap, but now he's in that dirty air. We're going to have to see how that car works over the next couple of laps, and already he is taking different lines to try and break that trough through the corners.
Yeah, Tim's doing what he can to try to keep those guys behind him. Youngo just kind of feeling things out probably a little bit. Knows that these guys in front of him are on a different fuel strategy. So if it stays green for a while, they're going to have to go pit. Youngo will assume the lead, and he's so fast he'll just drive away from him, as it appears right now.
Great battle still going on in that mid-pack as Nefriag is going to try and complete the pass through 1 and 2 there over Paul Jenkins. Jenkins taking a very high line through turn number 1 and 2. However, he was able to keep it back in line, and he moves down to the 15th position on the racetrack. 2 cautions today for a total of 8 laps in this race. Working ourselves on lap number 41 right now. And a couple of guys are already starting to get a little bit loose off or forward. Don't forget, these cars, they have both the anti-roll bar front and rear and the weight checker, which they can use, as Youngo is looking down to the inside of the 93 car of Joshua Chin to move himself up into that second position. But again, he has to take a very shallow line for the corner, and Josh Chin, look at this, he's going to try and come back down to the inside through turn number 1 and 2, Dave.
Very nice crossover, but he lets him have the position. So Youngo up to second, going to chase down Tim Holgate, who's got a 0.6 of a second lead. So Youngo's got the draft. We'll see how long it takes him to reel him in.
And I was just saying now as well, you know, the in-car tools, the anti-roll bar and the weight checker, these drivers do use a lot of it on this racetrack. In fact, you will see a couple of drivers using completely different settings in turn 1 and 2 compared to 3 and 4. A little bit like Pocono in that regard.
Yeah, since the corners are so different, it requires a very specialized setup, and you got to really make adjustments to get through one end or the other better. Because if you try to keep the same setup in 3 and 4 as you do 1 and 2, you're going to give up too much time.
And now working ourselves on lap number 44. And you've got good side-by-side racing right now between Joe Branch in the 4 car, Paul Jenkins in that 23 car. Jenkins on the outside is able to hold off Joe Branch, and yes, he is going to be able to hold him on the outside there. So Jenkins's car is working well on that outside line. However, it doesn't seem to be as though it's working very well through turn number 1 and 2, and you will see Joe Branch really reeling him in through this first portion of the racetrack. And this time he's not going to be as close as Jenkins takes a slightly different, more defensive line, and Joe Branch has to slot in behind. But I'll tell you what, some really good racing through this field. One guy, however, who is a little bit out of place now, Ron Mayer Jr., he had a bad pit stop, and now he's running behind Martin Miller on the rear end of the top 10. And unfortunately, his day doesn't seem to be going the way he expected it to be after a great qualifying, starting this race in the 4th position outside row number 2.
Yeah, unfortunate to see that for Ron Meyer Jr. A lot of laps left as Schaefer dives to his inside in 3 and 4. He's probably going to lose a spot here. But one little mistake can really unglue your race. If you lose that many spots, it's really hard to make them back up, especially here at Motegi, because with the line being so sensitive and everything. So we'll see if Ron Meyer can get back in the top 5 where he was before that little pit road incident.
I'm just keeping an eye out. We expect to see Holgate on pit road in the next 6 to 7 laps by the look of it. Now, of course, he stayed out on that second caution of the day, so he should, in theory, be a little bit faster than Youngo. Indeed, he is able to keep him at bay for the most part. And if you're Youngo right now, would you just stay behind and just try and save a little bit of fuel?
Yeah, Youngo doesn't really have a lot to gain. The next competitor on his strategy is Matt Cook, which is over a second and a half behind. He's probably the guy he's most worried about. So he just kind of hangs in here, keeps keeps saving a little bit of fuel, take it easy on the car. Once Tim Holgate moves out of the way to make his pit stop, he'll start driving away.
The top 5 will actually
But
become
the caution
caution.
is out.
Oh, this is interesting now. This is very, very interesting. Our third caution of the day, and it is Paul Jenkins in the number 23 car, who came together with Joe Branch there in turn 3 and 4. One of those classic situations that the car on the outside comes down just a little bit too much. The car on the inside comes up a little bit too much, and Paul Jenkins turned around and is out of the race.
Unfortunate. Looks like that was kind of a racing incident. Joe Branch moved up. Paul Jenkins came down. They touched. Jenkins gets the worst of it. And I know Paul pretty well. He's probably pretty upset about that. He was having a pretty decent run with those guys in the mid-pack.
Yeah, he's brought that car onto pit road. He has got some substantial left side pod damage, however. So he will, if he can drive that car, be scored multiple laps down. However, for Holgate, this is interesting for him because it's not been as long a run as we've seen previously. Let's not forget, we went back to Green Flag Racing on lap number 34. We've done 15 laps again. And I'm guessing that we will see everyone on pit road. But keep an eye out to see how many positions Holgate, Chin, and Demerit are going to lose if they all come onto pit road this time by. Let's not forget, we still have 26 cars scored on the lead lap. Paul Jenkins on pit road. Ryan Murray scored 1 lap downfield. I expect him to stay out, try and get that lap back in that number 25 car. I'm hoping, we've had a caution every 15 laps or so, as Holgate, it looks like he's going to lead the field in. Let's see, is anyone going to be brave and try and stay out this time? The top 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars are all going to come in, and they are too wide down pit road already. Pit road speed, of course, 45 miles an hour here. Keep an eye out, as I say, on Tim Holgate in that number 6 car to see where he feeds back in, as he's going to have to take a little bit more fuel than some of these other guys as he comes into his pit box. He's nicely in, so he's got the perfect thing he needs to do. Young O in that number 1 pit stall. Can he make sure he gets himself a good pit stop? The answer is yes. Nicely in for him as well. Keeping an eye out, of course, to see Joshua Chidd actually gets a very good pit stop there. And it's not that bad for Holgate at all.
Oh, Tim Holgate looks like he comes out second. Maybe third behind Matt Cook, but excellent stop for him. He really nailed it. Only lost 2 spots to be, honest with everything. Anthony Kernish from Australia does stay out, along with Ryan Murray, as you predicted. But since Kernish is on the lead lap, Murray will not get the waiver round.
Indeed, and that perhaps a little bit of strategy there for the 78 car, who will resume. He will lead this lap. I was just thinking back, actually. Pit stop times here, you're looking somewhere in the region of about 7 to 8 seconds. Now, of course, if you take tyres, your pit stop generally is about 6.5 seconds naturally. So, when I think about it in that perspective, Tim Holgate was only due to lose about a second, maybe a second and a half, by doing the strategy at this part of the race. A little bit later on, when guys only have to take 4 or 5 gallons, it might not be as economically viable to take tyres as well. And that is where those guys who go off sequence might lose out a little bit more. But Kernish is going to be scored as your race leader. Ryan Murray is not going to have to go to the back, let's not forget. It's a single file restart, so Murray can try and get his lap back the hard way by staying at the front of this field and hoping for a quick caution. However, Anthony Kernish in that number 78 car is your new race leader.
Kernish plays the strategy a bit, stays out. Youngo's not looking forward to the lap car being in between him and the leader here. He's got to hope that Ryan Murray gets a good restart as well so he can keep up with the leader. Matt Cook, though, see if he can get around Young O. I think if he can get ahead of Young O, it's going to be hard for Young to get back by him. I think Matt's got a pretty solid car. He just hasn't been able to quite show it yet.
So, your top 5, it is Anthony Kernish, who has not pitted. He went off sequence. He scored as your race leader. Young O is in the 2nd position. He will restart 3rd in line. Matt Cook in 3rd. He will restart 4th in line. Tim Holgate in 4th, going to restart 5th in line. Joshua Chim is going to start 6th in line. He runs in at the 5th position. Still have 26 cars scored on the lead lap. And we have Ryan Murray, who scored 1. If I was Ryan Murray, would you just try and pit now and top off on fuel?
No, I played the strategy already. I'd stay. Might be faster than Kernish. He gets ahead of him in a lap or two, then a quick caution comes out. He's right back in the lead lap. So the only thing he can do right now is stay up front and try to get the lead lap back. So he's kind of has to take advantage of that and see if he can make it work.
Give you an update on Paul Jenkins. That issue is terminal, and he is now classified as out of the race. Lights are going to go off on the pace car. Let's go this time by going to go back to green flag racing as we approach half race distance in the 4th round of the 16th Street Racing League, and of course the 3rd round of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. The 16th Street Racing League giving $5 every race to the race winner to their favourite charity through their partnership with iRaceForLife.org. For more information and to find out how you can give just by running on iRacing, head over to iRaceForLife.org, and the winner of the last race, Matt Cook, giving his $5 to Orphan Secure. Dave, of all the restarts we've had, this is, I think, going to be the most interesting, because you've got Ryan Murray. He's got good speed, but on old tyres. Anthony Kernish, he's had reasonable speed in that 78 car on old tyres. Just having a look at Kernish, so he qualified in the 12th position, and he's been running pretty reasonably in the top 15. However, he's not been as fast as what we saw with Holgate and Chin earlier. I think this restart really is going to back the field up a lot more.
I agree with you, Will. 78 doesn't get a good restart. It's really going to jam things up because these guys behind him have shown that on the restarts they're very good. Car sticks really well, and they're able to make up spots quickly. So Kernish does the right thing, moves up as hard as he thinks he can go. We'll see what happens here when the green comes out shortly.
And pace car going to come back in. Will Kernish wait? Will Kernish go? He's going to go early. Green flag back in the air. Big wiggle there for Ryan Murray. That might swamp the field up a little bit. As you see, Youngo is already looking this way. He's going to go down to the inside through turn number 1 and 2. So the plan already falling to pieces there for Ryan Murray, as he's now going to be the 3rd car in line. And I tell you what, if Young can get past Kernish quickly, he will be able to make short work of him. He will be able to stretch out a huge advantage now, because of the fact that he will then have 2-car buffer between himself and Matt Cook, who's running in the 2nd position on the racetrack. Restart, everyone is through okay once again. I tell you what, Dennis Garisov getting back into that lead lap is scored in the 15th position, and they're having a great battle. He's going to go down to the inside with Terry Matinson on Nefriag through turn number 1 and 2. Was not able to complete the pass, however, but what a great recovery there by Dennis Garis.
Yeah, things worked out real well. Garis must have a lucky rabbit's foot or horseshoe or something in the cockpit with him. Got the cautions he needed. He's on the same strategy as everybody else, and he's making up some good time right now.
Young O's close that gap already, less than down to 2 car lengths as they work through turn number 1 and 2. And we've got a caution out on the racetrack, and this looks as though it is a big one. It's Terry Matinson in the number 8, and it was actually with Dennis Garis there, who just turns Matinson around through turn number 1 and 2.
Yeah, you know, it looks like that Terry was following Nefri through the corner and didn't see Dennis Garis inside of him, because he clearly had a wheel and a wing inside of him. Clipped him and catches 3 or 4 good cars, and unfortunately Garis, we were talking about him earlier, front and rear wing damage. He's not going to be competitive the rest of the day.
Yeah, Joe Branch also involved in that incident. Just trying to see if anyone else was involved. I tell you what, some cars very lucky as they get through there. The pace car is back out, and Kernish, he's going to lead a couple more laps there.
It'll be interesting to see if Kernish stays out again or if he goes into pit.
Well,
if I was him, I'd stay out some more, and I'm sure Matt Cook would like him to stay out some more so he can try to take a shot at Young O with somebody in front of him.
Well, here's the interesting point. Working ourselves on lap number 57, as I say, fuel tank anywhere between 31 and 33 laps. If you pit now, you are very close to making it to the end if this race goes green the rest of the way. Kernish does indeed stay out. Is anyone going to be brave and come in and top off? No one in the top 10. Everyone, no, Kingsbury looks like he is, and then he doesn't. I'm surprised that no one is playing the Danica game.
You got a couple guys way in the back who really have nothing to lose that are going to come in. just, if you're 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, you pit now, you're going to lose so much track position. Yeah, you might have more fuel than everybody else, but you're not going to be able to make up those spots on the track. So Kevin Kress, Jim McClure, and Tim Miller take the gamble, and they're going to top off with fuel. See if that's to their benefit when the end of the race comes around.
If it goes green the rest of the way, they are going to be incredibly close. However, if I was those drivers, I'll actually come back in and top off again. They're up the rear of the field now anyway. It's that whole kind of indie strategy. Come in, make sure you've got enough fuel in the car if you're going to go for that strategy. I would come in on the one to go just for the hell of it and add another, we're talking what, 0.1, 0.2 gallons of fuel? You and I both know this very well, Dave. That can be a huge difference maker.
Oh, absolutely. That could be the difference between running out of fuel coming off turn 2 or running out of fuel going through turn 3. You run out of 3, you can coast home, no problem. You run out coming out of 2, that's a half a lap you'd have to coast around. You know what? Every little smidgen I can get in there, I'm going to want to put it in there. So it's definitely going to benefit these guys if it goes green to have every little bit in there.
Unfortunate there for Joe Branch. He's had a torrid time the last couple of races in that number 4 Panther racing car.
Yeah, luck has not been on the National Guard car's side. Joe Branch unfortunately caught up in another incident today. Takes him out of the running. Hopefully he'll get his luck back with him next week.
And of course, next week, the 16th Street Racing League heads over to Phoenix International Raceway as Dave Jinks comes onto pit road. Dennis Garee's on pit road as well. 16th Street Racing League, the 4th round of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. Phoenix International Raceway, the 1 mile oval that, I tell you what, Panther was strong at Richmond last week. They are going to be incredibly strong at Phoenix in 1 week's time.
Yes, well, the tracks are very similar, so should say that those guys will be pretty good there. However, race setup, they have a little bit to gain because Matt Cook definitely took advantage of the Panther guys to win his first career 16th Street race last week. So we'll see if Panther guys can make those race setups a little better, contend for the win next week.
And of course, 3 oval races in a row. And we have to say that for the most part, Josh Chin has been very good. Same with Ryan Murray, 2 guys we expect to be some of the fastest on the road courses. Very good showing in this big bunch of ovals that we have in a row. Now, if they can keep that together, when we head over to Indianapolis in a couple of weeks on the road course there, they're going to be in good position to try and take a commanding lead in this championship. Of course, you can say exactly the same thing with Tim Holgate, who's currently running in the 4th position in this race and is your championship leader.
Yeah, well, the guys that are strong on road courses, they're looking to just maintain good top 5 solid points finishes on the ovals and then try to make up their spots on the road courses. Then the opposite goes for the oval guys. They're going to just try to be solid on the road courses and then make up their points and finishes on the ovals. So differing strategies for these guys. I know the road course guys are looking forward to getting back to turning left and right soon with, these 3 oval races in a row. As the pace car lights go out, we've got one more till the green comes out again.
I have to correct myself, by the way. We go first to Barber Motorsports Park to Alabama before we go to Indianapolis. Lights are out on the pace car. Curtis still leading the way from Young O, Matt Cook 3rd, Tim Holgate 4th, Josh Chin in 5th. And this is the first time that everyone is having to restart on slightly worn tyres. So I think this restart, you are going to see a couple of people do the wiggle, shall we say.
Yeah, wiggles have been pretty prevalent on these previous restarts on cold tires. Warm tires are going to add a little more to that. See if guys can keep all the cars going straight when the green flag comes back out.
Track temperature right now, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and northerly wind of 2 miles an hour, and race humidity, well, right now, that is 55% as the lights are out on the pace car. Give you an update on Jenkins and Garese. They are both out of their cars, and they are both out of the race. Terry Mattinson also out, as is Joe Branch, and they're going to be classified 25th back in this race. So, bad points day for all of them. Can I should say, in the meanwhile, he is working himself through turn number 4 as the lights are out on the iRacing.com first safety car. Keep an eye out. This is going to be a very interesting restart. Curtis is going to have to get himself a good start on very worn tyres. He needs to keep Young O at bay. And he's very slow at building back up the pace there. The green flag is back out. And Young O immediately is right on his tail. He's going to go down to the inside in turn number 1. new race leader. It's going to be Young O going back to the point in that number 1 car.
Yeah, Kurnish got a horrible restart. Gonna try to cross over, but Matt Cook's inside of him. Looked like Young O was shot out of a rocket compared to the number 78 car. See what Cook can do going to the inside of Young O into turn 3. Almost touch. Unbelievable. That was very close. Luckily, those guys got through with no damage.
That was very, very close there between Matt Cook and Young O. They are back up into the 1st and 2nd position where they qualified for this race. But I have to say, Young O did look a little bit more cautious through turn 3 and 4 there. And that might be something Cook bears in mind if we get ourselves a late race restart and he's in a similar position. Kurnish is going backwards. He's running in that 3rd position and Holgate all over the rear of him. I have to say, the strategy hasn't worked out for that 78 car, but he had to stick to it and he had to restart on those worn tyres. There's nothing else he can do. He has to hope that we get another caution in about 10 laps time so he can try and get himself onto some form of relevant sequence.
Well, things have been looking pretty good for his strategies so far because it seems like cautions always keep coming out before the green flag pit stops are needed for those guys that stay out. So things play out like they have been, he'll be in good shape. And if I'm Matt Cook, I'm trying to pounce as fast as I can on Young O. Racing him in the past, he gets away from you any little bit, you got no chance of getting at him.
I'll tell you what, the field is a little bit more spread out than it has been previously. That restart really did spread the field out. And I tell you what, 7th place forward, it does look pretty interesting as Courtney Tell is going to look down to the inside of the 93 car of Joshua Chin, and he's going to try and move himself up into the top 5. And it looks like also Tim Doyle is going to slot himself down there as well. But then Tim Doyle, looking as though he's going to try and go down to the inside of Terrell out of 4, thinks a little bit better of it. But Tim Doyle looks like he is flying right now. But do not ever discount Courtney Tell in that number 18 machine. Currently scored 2nd place in the championship, and he gets a good run off turn number 2. Looks like he'll be able to hold off Tim Doyle this time into turn 3 and 4. As I almost saw Kurnish looking down to the inside there of Matt Cook. Things a little bit better of it, but that allows Holgate to close it back up. A 4-car breakaway in the top 4 drivers right now. Courtney Tell is scored about 8 tenths of a second further back with Tim Doyle with him. And if I was Tim Doyle right now, I will try and see whether Terrell can catch this group up. But it doesn't look as though he's able to do so for the time being. Of course, if Holgate and Kurnish start battling, that will really bring those 2-3 drivers back into play.
Kurnish is very aggressive. I know he's on low fuel, but he's been able to stick with Cook and has been looking to his inside a couple times. If I'm Matt Cook, Kurnish is somebody I'm going to have to deal with for a little while still.
Yeah, and let's not forget, last time he pitted in this race was on the third caution of the day. 2nd caution of the day even, so he really is due a pit stop in the next couple of laps. He's already been 32 laps on this tank of fuel. He's only got about 2 to 3 laps left before he has to make that journey onto pit road. That will put him a lap down and out of contention. Of course, he is currently scored outside of the top 25 in points, so it's a risk that he would have wanted to take. This could be disastrous though for that 78 car. We'll keep you up to date with that. Meanwhile, Josh Chin is falling back pretty dramatically from Tim Doyle right now, who goes very wide through turn number 2.
Yeah, Josh Chin's car is not behaving the way he had hoped right now. See if he can get it fixed up. Well, he's behind a lot of cars right now, so all that dirty air is definitely going to make that front end not stick as well as he would hope.
Christopher Demerit lost the position there. He falls back down into the 9th position on the racetrack. As Jai has been able to make himself up some positions. Nefriarg now scored in the 11th position on the racetrack. Nefriarg, he is being caught a little bit there by Randy Cosno, as Ron Mayer Jr. is going to look down to the inside of Schaefer Danton. No, he doesn't. So they all fall back into line. I tell you what, Schaefer almost had to take evasive action and almost took the rear wing there of Randy Cosno, but those guys carry on. And Kurnish is still all over the rear of Matt Cook. And they have been able to break away from Tim Holgate a little bit. So now it's a 3-car battle for the race lead. Matt Cook has fallen back behind Young O, however. The gap is 4 tenths of a second on the racetrack, but that time, O didn't look as fast through turn 3 and 4. What we haven't seen yet is how the number 1 car does handle on, lower fuel levels. And let's not forget, in the transfer race, when that fuel got lower, Matt Cook was able to find a way of closing up and getting past the number 1 machine.
Yeah, Matt's got to hope that he can work that same magic as he did in the transfer race, but Young-O always seems to find a little extra, dig a little deeper when the races really matter. So he's got it dug deep right now. Still a lot of time left for Matt Cook to catch up. Still got 50 laps to go. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Very surprised the 78 car is still sticking with him. He's got to be feeling pretty good about that, but also got his fingers, toes, and anything else he's got can cross. Have that caution come out soon. But no,
he's coming in this time. Yeah, he's coming in this time and by the way, Nefriar was able to get himself up into the top 10, passing Christopher Demerit, and now Randy Cosno is going to look down to the inside. No, he's not. Demerit takes a very wide apex into turn 3 and 4 and is able to keep the Coors Light car at bay, but Kernish is on pit road, 45 miles an hour, and this is going to be a long, horrible journey, which is likely going to put him 1 lap down in this race, but he will be buoyed by the fact he had some good speed there on low fuel toward the end of that run.
I think the only thing he can hope for at this point is that it stays green. He only has to make 1 more stop after this, and he's only going to have to put about 20 laps of fuel in it. So if it stays green, he'll have a short final pit stop. We know some of these guys are still pretty close on making it.
Ron Mayer Jr. down to the inside of Demerit is able to complete the pass there. So Demerit really is going backward in that 144 Team Velociraptor car. And we have seen some guys be very good at the start of runs. We've seen some guys be better as the run gets to the middle, some guys being better at the end, and it's one of the beauties of this racetrack, as Nefriarg is not goal contact there with the 21 car. And this is the sort of thing that you're going to see guys going very different speeds in turn number 3 and 4. Nefriarg is going to hold that inside line, but I'm a little bit worried he might have a tiny bit. He has tweaked his front wing just a tiny bit there. That is very lucky it wasn't a bigger incident there with the 04 car of Nefriarg, as he is able to not complete that pass because he's got the car on his outside once again as they come down into 3 and 4. Nefri sweeps past, and also Randy Crosno looking so he's going to try and take the inside line as well, as these guys are battling for last positions in the top 10.
You can see how hard Nefri's working with that front wing damage. Car is definitely a lot tighter. He's slower on the straights. He's really working it just to maintain the 8th position that he has right now. It's going to be interesting to see if Randy Crosno can take advantage of both these guys and get up to 8th. He's on the inside of Kingsbury. See if he can complete the pass going into 3.
And the answer is going to be yes, he can. So Crosno moves himself up into the 9th position, and Crosno is looking for a solid result here today. He's had some bad luck in this series, but they are racing very, very hard for those positions.
Race gets worse for Ron Meyer Jr. Gets very loose off turn 4, loses all of his momentum, and loses a ton of track position back to 13th position. Very unlucky for him.
Yeah, and he falls behind a pretty big pack there, which has got Mark Schaefer, Christopher Demerit in it as well. So you've got a 6-car pack around there. I tell you what, Tim Doll has not been able to really make any inroads on Courtney Terrell, and they have fallen back to 2.6 seconds behind your race leader. However, they are catching Tim Holgate in that 6-car. It does look as though that Holgate's car is not good as you approach the middle part of the run. You're back for the race lead, however, between Young-O and Matt Cook. The gap is now 5.5 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Let's see what their lap times are as they come past the track once again. A 28.734 for Young-O and 28.797 there for Matt Cook. Gap is now exactly 6 tenths of a second.
Young-O just keeps inching and inching and inching away from Matt Cook. Looking good for Young-O right now. Still a lot of time left, as I keep saying.
We heard a big whoa moment there by our cameraman, Raphael Sankey. Oh my God, Kingsbury. They're going to be 3 wide down into turn number 3. This is going to be close.
Wow.
And Crosno just gets out of the groove completely. But look at how Kingsbury overshot the corner. Crosno's going to be able to try and do the cut under. He just gets out of the gas, and that is going to allow Christopher Demerit 3 wide into 1. This is close racing here. And Crosno almost tags the inside car of Ron Mayer Jr. He has to get out of the gas completely, and we're into that stage of the race where people start getting loose off turn number 4, and they're almost 3 wide again down into turn number 4 that time by.
Wow, that was an amazing lap. Nefri gets the best of it. He's got to be cheering a little bit for himself. Pulls away from that gaggle of cars. Mark Schaefer gets the worst of it. He had to take a very high line in the 3, lost a absolute ton of time. Great job by all those guys keeping everybody on the track, going 3 wide in 3 and into 1.
and they managed to hold it, so they carry on under green here. And I tell you what, that mid-pack has been so competitive this season as well. These guys are separate. We're talking, competitiveness in tenths in some cases. We're talking about thousands between some of these drivers, as Demerit is on the rear wing of Krosno once again down into turn number 1. Will he try and sort that car to the inside line? You will see as this race progresses, by the way, some guys deciding to run this second lane all the way through turn number 1 and 2. Demerit tried to put his car down to the inside, got himself a little bit tight, and now Schaefer's going to go down to his inside in turn 3 and 4, and he is able to complete that pass. What a great run Schaefer had through that corner, actually.
Yeah, I've been watching Schaefer the last couple laps. He's very good on the entrance at 3, almost to the point over driving it. He seems to make up more than he loses going into 3 than he does coming off 4. He's able to make some passes, see if he can make up a few more spots that he lost there in the gaggle.
So to run through your top 10 then, it is Young-O scored as your race leader, Matt Cook 2nd, Tim Holgate 3rd, Courtney Taylor 4th, Tim Dahl 5th, Joshua Chin in 6th, Martin Miller 7th, Nathan Arg in 8th, Matt Kingsbury loose in 9th as he comes out of turn number 4. That is going to allow Rungmay Jr. to slot down to his inside into turn number 1, and that is going to be the battle for the last of the top 10 positions. Randy Crosno is running in the 11th position. We have a total of 22 cars scored on the lead lap, and that black flag that Ryan Murray got earlier on in this race, that really has haunted him. While Garis was able to get himself back onto the lead lap before he had that incident, Ryan Murray has been pinned 1 lap down pretty much this entire race, and also Anthony Kernish is now also scored 1 lap down as we expected, and actually pretty far 1 lap down as well.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Ryan. Just things didn't break his way like they did for Dennis Garis. Stuck 1 lap down. Things not working out for him. I'm looking at James McClure, who topped off fuel on that last pit stop on the last caution. He's drafting behind Ryan Murray.
Coming in, but sorry, I was going to say Kingsbury came in, but he overshot his pit entry and almost ran back into the centre of the racetrack. But he's on pit road. Carry on.
I'm sorry. So McClure saving a little bit of fuel in the draft. We'll see if he can stretch that fuel to make 1 more stop. See if he can take advantage of the strategy that he played earlier on pitting when no one else did to top off.
He's going to hate me for saying this. Danica syndrome.
Yeah, he's going to hate you for that, Will.
But we are kind of into that pit window right now. Let's not forget, the last time that these guys topped off in fuel was around lap number 52. They've had some laps of caution to work through under that, but we are expecting these guys in the next 2 to 3 laps or so. Young-O really has been able to eke out a 1.1 second gap, and he's done most of that over the last couple of laps. As Terry Bettenhauser looking as though he's going to come in this time by. Eric Davis also looking as though he's going to commit to pit road this time by. So our first sequence of green flag pit stops as Holgate is on pit road and Tim Dahl as well.
Well, this could be a point of whoever pits last wins the race, because 1 lap can make or break you being able to finish the race without having to pit again, or having to come in and top off and put a gallon or 2 in. So, especially if it stays green.
Everyone will be good.
Here comes the Young-O into pit road.
Young-O is on pit road, and I say, having a look at the laps, it does look as though they've been able to eke a little bit more fuel than they were able to in the transfer race. This will be the last stop for everyone. However, it's a case of how much fuel can you put in now, and how quickly you can get on and off of pit road. Holgate able to get out ahead of Tim Doyle there. You got to hold that inside line to say all the way through turn number 1 and 2, and then you can rejoin once you get onto the back straight away. But Young-O in his pit box, 4 fresh tyres for him. He's going to top up with race gas as well. Nice pit entry from one of the best pitters in all of IndyCar racing. He is out and away. Matt Cook is now on pit road as well, so he did lead a lap, and now he is making that journey in. Mark Shute exiting pit road. David Sockrider also exiting pit road, as is Christopher Demerit. And I tell you what, it does look as though that Ron Mayer Jr. has spent a long time on pit road. I think he got himself a speeding penalty. So his day really has not got the way he wanted it to. I'm just having a look. Yeah, he nowhere near hit that cone in time. He got himself a speeding penalty.
Again, 1 mistake just keeps crumbling your race, and just another unfortunate thing for Ron Meyer Jr. as this race keeps coming apart.
Matt Kingsbury's hit the wall. Matt Kingsbury's hit the wall. He's going to spin it around, keep it off the racetrack. And that is going to not bring out a caution, but that would have set the heart rate racing for a couple of these drivers as Young-O gets himself past Ron Mayer Jr. I say it was one of the Kingsburys, Matt Kingsbury there, He had an incident because of the fact he already had some side pod damage. He's crawling that car back to pit road, but he just touched the grass in turn 1 and 2, spun that car around, but it looks as though it's that classic loose off turn 4 syndrome there for Matt Kingsbury, and just slid down, slammed the pit wall, and that's what caused that initial incident. We stay green, however, and Kingsbury, he looks as though he's going to be out of the race.
Yep, that grass will get you every time. Very unfortunate for him. But through the cycle of pit stops, looks like Young O beat Matt Cook out, and Matt Cook's got 2 lap cars in between him and the leader right now.
Yeah, Kevin Kress is coming onto pit road this time by, so our 5th different leader of the day. Tim Miller stays out, and Tim Miller becomes our 6th different leader of the day. And that's going to be nice for the number 91 car, Tim Miller, being able to lead a lap in this series.
Yeah, Tim Miller was one of the good guys in iRacing. It's nice to see him up front leading a couple laps here.
Jim McClure also making his pit stop, so he falls back into play as well, as Miller is coming on pit road this time by. This is going to give the race lead to Jinx, but Jinx comes on pit road as well. So a full cycle of green flag pit stops has been completed, and Young O is back to the point. And the gap between himself and Matt Cook, what we're looking at 6/10 of a second on the racetrack. Cook does look as though he's slightly better in this first phase of the run. And then Young O is just dominant as we get into the second phase. So I'm wondering maybe if Cook might have tried to make a little change to his car, knowing the fact that he didn't have to take as much fuel this time by, to get himself to the end of the race and be a little bit more competitive, trying to close down Young O, because they've now got themselves a 4-second gap to Tim Holgate, who runs in 3rd.
Yeah, your top 2 had some excellent pit stops. Matt Cook closed a little bit of time on Young O, who I believe had a 2nd lead going into pit stop, so he cut that down by 4/10. And they definitely pulled away from Tim Holgate. This is a 2-horse race unless a caution comes out.
To have a look at the pit in times for Young O, he did a 40.405, and Matt Cook did a 40.159. Where Matt Cook was able to gain that advantage, it was on pit exit, where Young O did a 55.1 and compared to the 44.4 there for Matt Cook, and that is why that gap has half. I'm having a look, and Nefriag is going to get down to the inside of Ron Mayer Jr., and I do believe that Mayer Jr. is now scored a lap down, but Nefri also scored a lap down in that 19th position now, and he was running in the top 10. So I'm just going to check, and I think that Nefriag had a speeding penalty as well there.
Yeah, guys being real aggressive, getting onto pit road, trying to grab every, 1,000th of a second they can, and sometimes that bites you with a pit road speeding penalty. iRacing dictates that you have to sit on pit road for an extra 16 seconds when you get a speeding penalty, so that just absolutely kills you, because 16 seconds on a 28-second lap, you gave up 2/3 of a lap just right there on pit road.
Indeed, yeah, and that is going to be disappointing for the lover of the Fuzzy Girls, Nefri Arg, in that 04 car. They are continuing their battle, however, even though they have scored a lap down, battling for the final positions in the top 20. Nefri does look as though he's able to now clear Mayer Jr., and he moves himself up into the 19th position on the racetrack. Now, gap between O and Cook, it's stable at 0.6 of a second, but they are still pulling away from Tim Holgate. We're going to have, 13 laps left in this race. I'll tell you what, if Cook's going to move, he's going to have to move quickly. Guys who lost out on that sequence of pit stops as well. Courtney Terrell is now behind Martin Miller. He scored in the 6th position in this race. And let's not forget, Terrell was fighting with Tim Doyle all the way through that run, that green flag run before pit stops. So working ourselves now onto lap number 99 of 110 here at Twin Ring Motegi. Run through your top 10. Young O from Matt Cook, from Tim Holgate, from Tim Doyle, from Martin Miller, Courtney Terrell, Ben Joshua Chin, Randy Cosney, Mark Schaefer, Anthony Kernish round out your top 10. I'm just thinking back, I'm wondering whether Kernish is able to get to the end of this race. He pitted last time by, I'm just having a look for my timing and scoring now, on lap number 73. In my eyes, he's going to be, 3 laps short? He needs a caution, otherwise he's going to not get his top 10 here today, what has been a really bold strategy.
Sometimes when you're not as fast as the leaders, you got to try to, play a different hand. It's worked out so far for Kernish, but it might end up biting him at the very end of the race. Still a lot of time left. Well, 10 laps is a lot for some people. See if it works out for him. If he just catches a caution at the end of the race, he can coast home to the top 10 finish.
Some guys were having slightly better days than they've had in recent times. The Bettenhausen brothers. They have been moving up a couple of positions. So looking as though they're going to get themselves some nice top 15 finishes here today. Don't forget the most entertaining podcast in all of sim racing, the Will and Dave Show, Fridays 4 p.m. Eastern. It is live, exclusive on Glacier TV, also available on iTunes. Dave, I don't know why anyone wants to watch that though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but people keep downloading the podcast and tuning into the live show and asking us questions and talking to us and interacting with us on Twitter. So hey, if people want to keep talking to us, we'll keep looking like idiots on the internet.
You can't tune a website, by the way. Moving on. The gap between Owen Cook up to 7/10 of a second. I tell you what, though, it does look as though that Tim Doll is closing down Tim Holgate in that final podium position. So that could be one to watch in the remaining laps. Say less than 10 laps to go. They've got lap traffic ahead of them as Ron Mayer Jr. and Neff Briard going at it again. And look how close they were coming out of turn number 4 there.
Yeah, these guys are battling hard for 19th and 20th. Every point counts, and Ron Meyer Jr. just kind of racing for dignity right now after having a couple mistakes after starting 4th today. So he's going to battle every inch he can till the end of this race.
And I'll tell you what, Holgate, they are lapping a lot faster, and they're going to catch him in the next lap or so. And Holgate and Tim Doyle, they're going to be thinking, please, just stop your fight for a couple of laps, have a truce, let us get past you, then carry on fighting. And I do think that might be what happened. Tim Doyle has really closed that gap now, just down to 0.3 of a second on the racetrack. We knew that Holgate's car wasn't handling very well in Dirtier earlier on. This lap traffic really could help out Tim Doyle in the last 5 laps of this race.
Yeah, these lap cars definitely don't play into Holgate's favor, whose car definitely seems to fade as the run goes, and Tim Doyle is just very strong throughout. Not necessarily better than anyone else at any particular point, but just very solid throughout the run. And he's going to try to take advantage of it here with about 6 laps to go, see if he can get to podium position.
It is very close. Just to give you an update, a little bit down the field as well, Randy Pilsner and Mark Schaefer, they are battling for 8th and 9th positions on the racetrack. Kerry Bettenhausen, David Stockrider, they were battling. It looks though that gap has subsided for the time being. What this green flag run has done is really spread out this field. And Matt Cook, the gap is almost a second now between himself and Young O on the racetrack. They've been able to get themselves past Neff Briard. They just got to get themselves now past Ron Mayer Jr. But Tim Holgate does look as though he's struggling. He's a 10th of a lap slower than Tim Doyle. Of course, catching is one thing, passing is another. But Tim Doyle very close there through turn 3 and 4. The dirty air affects Holgate's car on the exit of 4. That could be a big issue, but it does look as though Holgate able to hold on there, and Tim Doyle's just got a couple more laps to try and get this pass complete.
Yeah, Holgate was very solid coming out of turn 4. Tim seems to make up his time through 2 and down the backstretch into 3. So see if he can set him up in the next 2 laps to get 3rd position.
Meanwhile, your race leader is Young O, and I have to say he's made his return to the series, and he has been absolutely dominant in this race. No one has really been able to have an answer for that number 1 car. With a lap and a half to go in this race, you're going to have to say Young O is making a pretty big statement on his return.
Yes, well, he's making a big statement, but really not a surprise. If you watched the 16th Street League last season, you knew that he pretty much won everything he could get his hands on. So not a surprise to see him running so solidly up front and pulling away from a guy like Matt Cook by over 7/10 with 1 lap to go.
White flag in the air. I tell you what, a little bit of an issue there for Young O, because Christopher Demerit ahead of him got very loose out of turn number 4. I'm sure Young's heart rate might have gone up a couple of beats there. However, on to turn number 3 and 4 for the final time in this race. He hasn't taken part in the first 3 rounds of the season. However, Young O returns to 16th Street Racing competition and comes back with a bang with victory at Twin Ring Motegi. Cook comes home in 2nd position. Holgate aims to hold on to 3rd as Tim Doyle has to settle for 4th position. Courtney Taylor gets another top 5. He comes home in 5th. Martin Miller 6th, Josh Chin 7th, Randy Cosney 8th, Mark Schaefer 9th, and Eric Davids complete that top 10. Welcome back, Young-O.
Young-O again, honestly, not surprising. I'd have been surprised if guys could hang on to his draft the whole race. Congratulations to Young-O, doing what he does best. That's leading every lap he can lead and winning every race he's in.
Anthony Kernish, by the way, he had to pit on lap number 106, so he was 3 laps short, wasn't able to make it to the end of the race, and unfortunately, he finishes outside the top 20. And that shows sometimes you have to be risky with strategy, sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. Let's not forget, for example, Tim Holgate, he stayed out earlier on, and he was able to come home in the 3rd position after qualifying 13th here today. So then, to run through your final race results from the 4th round of the 16th Street Racing League and the 3rd round of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. Young-O takes race victory in a time of 1 hour and 11 minutes. Matt Cook comes home less than 1 second further back. Tim Holgate 5.2 seconds behind your race leader, and then Tim Dorr a further 7/10 of a second back from him. Courtney Tell 5th, Martin Miller 6th, Josh Chin in 7th, Randy Cosno in 8th, Mark Schaefer in 9th, and then Eric Davids rounds out your top 10. Kerry Bettenhausen in 11th, David Sockrider 12th, Mark Schutte in 13th, Christopher Demerit 14th, Kevin Chris in 15th, Todd Bettenhausen 16th, Ron Mayer Jr. 17th, Tim Miller, Nefriarg, and Dave Jinks rounds out your top 20 as the rest of the results up on your screen momentarily. And before we go to interview stage, some guys had some very good days. Holgate 13th to 3rd. And he was able to make that strategy work out for him. Some guys had very bad days. People like Anthony Kernish, who, qualified well, was able to use some strategy, but it didn't work out for them. The same also with Ron Mayer Jr., who qualified in the 4th position, speeding penalty on pit road. He finished 1 lap down in 17th.
Yeah, well, Matt Cook, got to give him a lot of credit for sticking with Young-O, the only guy that could keep up with him after the green flag pit stops. Tim Holgate made an alternate strategy work out pretty well for him. So a lot of good racing today. I was very entertained. Great race. If you didn't like that, then you got to get your head checked.
A very, very good race indeed. And we'll talk to the guy who came home in the 2nd position. Driver of the number 66 Aero X racing car, Matt Cook. Now, Matt, in the transfer race, you were able to get the better of Young. In the feature race, not quite the speed you needed to claim race victory.
No, the transfer race was looking better, although I had a big suspicion Young was holding back quite a bit there. I mean, there's no real reason to race, and by getting behind me during those final laps of the transfer race before the pit stop, he was ensuring that he would make a good pit stop and I wouldn't accidentally hit him or something of that nature.
But you had a good race, and so we'll talk about your start first. You got very loose on the initial restart, fell back. Were you thinking at that point, it's going to be a tough, long day from here?
I knew that I was having some trouble on the starts. Starting on the high line isn't exactly the simplest thing to do because of the odd curvature of the track at that part. So if your right rear tire just happens to be in the wrong spot, it will give a significant amount of rotation. Or, sorry, your left rear. So it was definitely looking like it might have been a more challenging of a day. We had a lot of different people doing different strategies, so trying to keep mental track of where everyone was in their own particular fuel strategy was another challenge.
And then you were able to, keep yourself in the top 2 for the majority of the day, getting valuable points in the championship. However, next week we go to a track that I know you enjoy again in Phoenix. You're looking to get yourself at least another top 5 in that race?
I am. We have a couple of ideas that we want to try out and see if we can change the game for Phoenix a little bit, but no matter what, I'll be looking forward to it, whichever way it plays out.
Matt Cook coming home in the 2nd position in that number 66 Aero X racing car. Dave, I'm going to allow you to interview someone. you can have a chat with Tim Holgate, who came home in the third position.
Tim, congratulations on your third place finish. Looked like you played a little bit of a different strategy through the race, staying out on one particular caution. What were your thoughts staying out there?
Well, my first thought was, he's back. But my second thought was, don't speed in the pits because that'll screw your strategy up. So that's why we ended up going off sequence there, and it worked out for us because the yellow flew, just when we had just a few gallons left, and everybody came in, and that put us right back in the cycle. So it was on the first stop, I was side by side with somebody who just tried to eke out a little bit more to get my nose across the line first, and the stewards caught me, so they sent us to the back. So we had to work through traffic a little bit, and strategy helped us a lot there.
You were battling with Tim Boyle a lot near the end of the race. Did you think that your car had enough to hold him off, or were you pretty concerned that he was going to get by you there at the end?
I was less concerned about him getting by than I was about having to battle him. I feel like you can run stable laps just fine by yourself.
Very quickly, Dave. Again, apologies for the issues that we had there on that interview. It's one of the things that we really noticed here today. Running by yourself, you can actually go about 0.2 of a lap faster than when you're battling side by side, lap after lap. And I think you can really see that with the battle that Nefriaga was having in the latter stages of this race. Able to run 28.9, 28.8 by himself. Compare that to when he was running side by side for lap on end, and then he was doing 29.2, 29.3s at that point.
Yeah, it definitely seems like clean air is the place to be. You get that draft down the back straightaway, you're going a little faster into 3 than you're used to, so you got to whoa the car up a little more than you're typically doing, and it kind of breaks your rhythm a little bit, and it takes some time to get it back.
Now, I'm going to chat with the guy who came home 5th very quickly. Courtney Tell, have you got your microphone plugged in this week?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Cool. 5th place, another 5th place in the 16 Trick Racing League. The consistency element there is just astounding. The fact that you finish in the top 5 in every single race that you've entered. You're actually one of only 2 people to do that, along with championship leader Tim Holgate. But the day didn't start the way you excessively wanted it to. It was a tough fight to get yourself up into that top 5.
Yeah, it definitely was. A lot of fast guys at the track. I'm definitely happy with the top 5. Wish some of the guys ahead of me in the points were not also so consistent, but yeah, I can't be mad with the top 5.
And overall, it's been a good race being that number 18 IMS Radio Productions car. Now, you've had some good speed, some good battles up and down the field as well. Was it difficult, though, at the start of the race as you're trying to get yourself into a rhythm, trying to see how that car behaves on a full fuel run, and then for it to go to caution every 15 laps?
Yeah, the cautions were kind of a bummer. I definitely got faster after about that point, but the guys around me it was fun to battle with Martin there at the end. He got around me, I got back around him. Clean racing. It was a lot of fun.
And going on to... God, I'll move him out of the way very quickly. I'm going on to Phoenix in 1 week's time. A track which I know you absolutely love. Is it a case of get yourself another top 5, then try and beat Tim and Matt and maybe Young, see what happens from there?
I wish it was. I'm going to be on the road for next couple weeks, so I'm going to have to miss the next 2 races. But luckily we have some drop weeks, so hopefully that helps me out and I can continue my top 5 run.
Well, good luck on the road in the next couple of weeks with the guys over from IMS, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks' time. Dave, have a chat with Young.
Young welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be back at 16th Street again. Missed racing with these guys.
Young, any pressure on yourself as the defending champion to come out today and spank them again?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I knew that Matt would be extremely quick, and Tim Holgate, I think their setups are a little bit off this week, but credits to him to use strategy and get right up there as well. So yeah, it wasn't a very straightforward and easy race, and I'm glad that it was very challenging.
Well, I'm glad that somebody was able to give you a challenge today, because a lot of times last season you just checked out. No one was even within a lap of you sometimes. So it was a great race. Played the pit strategy, pretty conservatively, pitting when everybody else did. There was a couple instances when guys stayed out on a couple cautions. Were there any concerns that you might have any trouble with them, or was the car pretty good for you to get around them without any issues?
The only concern I had was I'm not sure how good their setups are on the restart. Once Ryan Murray, he got really squirrely. I think it was Ryan right in front of me on the restart. So that was how I lost this race last season. So I was a little bit concerned there. I had no doubt that my car had the speed to pass people. So yeah, that was the only concern. Otherwise, it was very, very, I would say, just no worries at all. I know how people drive here, and they're all clean drivers.
Yeah, I'm sure that makes you a little more comfortable when you're around those guys. Young, will we be seeing you in future weeks in the 16th Street League?
I have to. I don't even know myself because it's sort of I have an off week for the first time in quite a long time this week, so that's why I was able to run this race. But hopefully, I'll be able to do some more. I enjoy racing with these guys and testing with my teammates. So yeah, we'll see.
Cool. All right. Ingo, our number one finisher tonight, congratulations on your victory at Motegi.
Well, thanks, Dave. By the way, we always have this situation where the interviews always take about as long as the actual race itself. So I'm going to have to limit you guys to 2 questions from now on, because I love to talk to all of you. I'm going to start with Tim Doyle. Tim, 4th place in this race in that number 11 Foyt Wine Machine car. Now, of course, you qualified in the 3rd position, running the top 5 pretty much all day in your first race back in the 16th Street Racing League this series, and this season even. How is it for you overall?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the 5th place or 4th place finish. After not racing for quite a while, I haven't raced that much for many months, so it took me a while to get back into it, and I think I was overdriving the car trying to match Young's pace.
Good race, good pace, but he's pretty conservative again on strategy, and we know that you and Young often try and roll the dice there. Was it just a point for you thinking, well, we're running the top 5 pretty much anyway, there's no point for us to go off sequence and put ourselves into traffic?
Well, there really wasn't any point in the race that presented itself to do that. We were watching the other guys, Holgate, Koenig doing that, so it was just we were on our strategy and we pretty much stuck to what we were going to do at the beginning, and that's really all we could do.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Phoenix, you love Phoenix. Are you going to race at Phoenix next week?
I hope so. That's definitely a fun track. It's interesting on the restarts and stuff. Once you get going, it's a lot of fun. So, we'll see what we can come up with, and we'll probably be there.
Cool. Tim Doyle coming home in the 4th position. I don't even know who I have to talk to anymore. I can't even organise you guys. We will have a chat very quickly with Ryan Murray. Ryan, you stuck pretty much forever a lap down after a black flag penalty early on in the race. That really hurt you and really hurt your championship points as well.
Yeah, it was my mistake early on. I saw the guys accelerating, so I accelerated, and then all of a sudden they slowed down a bit, and I dove to the inside, and it was too late at that point. It's just unfortunate because I had a really fast setup that Tim Holgate and Niles Anders gave, and it's just sucks to be forever a lap down. And I was trying to be respectful to all the guys when I was racing, especially when I was 1 car behind the leader, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I need the top 25 in points. But as soon as Jan got underneath me, and then Holgate and Matt Cook, I just let them go and was hoping for a lucky break, but it never happened.
And next week we go to... Shush. Next week we go to... This is... I'll tell you what, I'm going to type a question down, and then you're going to answer it. There you are. Has he gone? Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, it looks like we had a little trouble with Mr. Murray there.
Oop. Okay, we've got a couple of people left to talk to. First one that we're going to talk to is Josh Chin. Chin, you went off strategy. It kind of worked for you.
Yeah, it didn't pan out the way I was expecting it to. I don't think the car was good enough to do it or get it as well as Tim did. That worked out really nicely for him, and I wish we could have gotten the same thing, but a 7th place is decent for having a setup that wanted to kill us early in the week.
7th place, you move up into 4th in the championship as we come into our 3rd of 3 oval races in a row. Are you hoping to just get good points at Phoenix again next week and then get yourself, back into race victory contention when we go back to your kind of standard haunting grounds of the road course?
I'd like to think that we could make some decent points at Phoenix, maybe get a top 5, but it really, I haven't tested it all, so I don't know how the car will drive, but I think this 3-week stretch, if I can get through it and still stay up there relatively close, I mean, I'm still 90 points back at the lead right now, but anything can happen. It's a long season, so we'll just see.
Long season indeed. Joshua Chin finishes in the 7th position. Now, one guy who really did try and roll the guys, that number 78 car. And Anthony, it really almost works for you. And you led some laps here today. However, had to pit with 4 laps to go. And you fell down 1 lap and you ended up 22nd on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but, it was my first foray into this league. And, I wanted to sort of get myself up there and show what I can do. And, yeah, it didn't work on this occasion, but that's racing, and there's always next time.
And after qualifying outside the top 10, was that lurking in the back of your mind that you might just want to try and do a very big alternate strategy to get yourself into contention?
Yeah, and I'm pretty good around this track, and the track position was hard to come by, especially as the runs progressed. So I sort of tried something, and it didn't work on this occasion, but that's just the luck of the draw in these races.
Well, we're going to see you again at Phoenix?
Yeah, I should be back. I like racing that track with this Indy car. It's certainly a good challenge, and any of these drivers' tracks I'll probably show up for.
Well, good luck, Anthony. We'll see you hopefully next week at Phoenix. And Dave, you can have a chat with Christopher Demerit.
Mr. Demerit, pretty solid race for you. What were your thoughts on your finish today?
I definitely could have finished a lot better than I did. I actually messed up multiple times. Once with qualifying, not on the pace that I usually was on. Second was speeding in pit road the first time. And hit the wall a couple times in the second 2 runs, which led to the car being really unstable in the last 10 laps. Overall, I salvaged what I could, but it wasn't too bad.
Just for your thoughts going into Phoenix for next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have other commitments, so I'm not going to be able to make the Phoenix race next week, and I'm probably not going to make the Barber race after that one because I don't own Barber. I'm not a very big road racer.
All right, well, you had a pretty respectable finish today. We'll look forward to seeing you back in 16th Street League when you're able to return.
All right, thank you.
And that pretty much sums up all we have time for. Dave, before we go, what we've learned here today, Motegi, very good, clean, close racing. And again, very competitive nature to it. You had, 3 different teams represented in the top 3 again. And still a very competitive nature to the series. However, Young comes in and he dominates once again.
Yeah, not really. I can't really say that I'm surprised by that. Young has proven time and time again. That's why he's a 16th Street League champion, Indianapolis 500 winner. He wins almost everything that he gets his hands on. So not surprised to see him up front. But great race, very competitive. Lots of different teams represented your leaders of the race today. So overall, very good race at Motegi.
And of course, next week we head over to Phoenix International Raceway, our third oval in the row. And it's, again, a good driver's track, very competitive racing. Of course, restarts at Phoenix, my god, are they crazy.
Yeah, the setups require you to be so loose on the initial start so you can keep the speed up as the run continues. So we thought things were squirrely at Motegi. They're going to be exponentially worse coming in Phoenix next week.
So, next week we head to the desert, to Phoenix International Raceway for the third oval race in a row for round number 5 of the 16th Street Racing League, as it will also be the 4th round of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. Don't forget, iRaceForLife.org, with its partnership with the 16th Street Racing League, 5 winners will go to the winner's charity of their choice. Young O, what's your favourite charity?
Actually, I haven't had the time to look at all the charities yet, but I'll do that in a minute, and then tell you guys. Well, off the air, of course.
Okay. So we'll give you an update on that next round at Phoenix. Aaron Likens will be back with me next week. Are you going to stick around with me, Dave?
Well, I will do my best if the better half allows me to get away for a few hours.
Well, don't forget, the better half of Dave Judson hates the Will and Dave podcast, but you might enjoy the Will and Dave podcast. It's Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern. It is live and exclusive on Glacier TV. The craziest hour you will listen to all week long. Youngo dominant here in Japan. However, Matt Cook, Tim Holgate, they continue their championship charge along with Courtney Terrell. We'll be back same time, same place for the 5th round of the 16th Street Racing League. And this has been an iRacing Brazil production of the 16th Street Racing League from Motegi. From myself, Will Vincent, from Dave Judson and Raphael Sunk on cameras. We'll see you all next week. Bye!
From Team Targets. All the best to everybody at iRacing Brazil.
Silvestro, and I hope all the iRacers in Brazil are having a lot of fun on iRacing.
Hi, I'm Justin Wilson. I want to say hello to all the iRacers down in Brazil. Hope you have fun, enjoy the racing. Take it easy.
Hey, I'm Wyatt Gooden, and iRacing Brazil, awesome league. You guys are great, cool league.
Mandar um abraço aí pro pessoal do iRacing Brasil. Continue jogando aí.
Aí galera, eu sou o Hélio Castro Neves, fique ligado no iRacing Brasil. Vamos lá, Brasil!
Vamos lá.